What is going on, everybody? I am Aquarium Service Tech, and I'm here with Tommy of Tanknicians, and this is an update video on the FWC proposed ban on the pet industry, which would include reptiles, fish, and anything they deem as invasive.
Basically anything that isn't a cat, a dog, or livestock. It's unfortunate the direction that it seems to be moving right now. So I'm going to read straight from USARK FL's Facebook page. They did an update on a recent tag group meeting. This was from 6 days ago. FWC staff introduced a complicated 18-tier regulatory system which would implement a whitelist similar to what we saw with the Option 1 draft rule presented at the May 2023 FWC Commission meeting, the one that me and Chris went to from the previous videos.
Yeah, down in Miami.
Whitelist systems ban all species not specified as allowed by default. This language was supported by animal rights activists and government representatives, but unanimously opposed by animal industry representatives. Thankfully, the FWC chose not to vote on this rule at that time. So there's a lot more here that you can definitely go and read. We still highly recommend that you, if you can, donate, but at least support USARK Florida, because they're fighting the good fight for us. But this isn't a great news update.
No, this is actually not the direction I was hoping that they would head. I mean, they're basically saying, here's the whitelist. This is what's allowed, right? Mm-hmm. But this is the amount of animals that are in the pet industry right now. And then we pretty much up to us to prove to them that this is okay and this would cause no harm to the Florida's environment. It's extremely frustrating. So I think there's a little bit of uncertainty about what this means, and we got a ton of comments on the last video that we did. So I want to take this time to kind of answer some of those questions to clarify what's really going on right now. So we're going to go ahead and go through those comments and answer them the best that we can. All right, so the first comment we got from @RecklessTheory says,
Hey, Reckless Theory. Oh, it says, I heard this has nothing to do with the environment. I heard it has to do with land developers wanting the land that is being used by fish farms. So I don't know if that's the case, but what I do know is that when we see invasive species in the wild, they tend to be clustered in disturbed habitat. So not pristine natural habitat, but habitat that we've developed or previously developed. You know, you see Cuban nidonoles, you see green iguanas coastally. You see them where we've destroyed the habitat.
Golf courses, a big
Yes.
one, which is, don't get me started on golf courses, but land developer wanting the real estate. You know, down here in Florida, the real estate has gone through the roof, and I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, it is something to consider because land is extremely valuable down here. I'll leave that one alone.
Well, it's important to note that a ton of wetlands just lost their protections. Florida is not going to be investing as much money as they used to into buying land strictly for preservation. And we're currently in the process of building a new highway that runs through one of the last large tracts of forest in the middle of the state. So we're continuing to do things developmentally that are counter to wanting to fight invasive species that are currently here and prevent them from establishing.
All right, next up we have @AndyAquatics9005. FWC can't even tell snakes apart. Them trying to tell fish apart will be a mess. Even Google fails telling fish apart. I agree 100%. I think this is probably, they do not have the capacity, the funding, or the knowledge to be able to come into pet stores and tell you what is and what isn't what they're looking for. So that's going to create a ton of confusion, and we've already seen this before. Some people have had snakes killed that shouldn't have been killed, and I could easily see this being a mess because they're not staffed properly, they're not funded properly, in order to take on such a lofty,
It
project.
it would take someone hours just to go through all the animals that we have at our shop, and it's a small shop.
Smokey Mesa says, "You think I don't live in Florida, so this isn't my problem. Just remember, many of the fish in your local store come from facilities in Florida." Absolutely, great point. We supply a lot of the nation with a lot of cool things. This one, Bots28, too bad, unnamed coral supply major chain shop. Are too busy worrying about money and charging $2,000 for a frag instead of fighting the scary law change. It's a shame. They should use the ton of money that they make to help lead this fight. Yes, I was very disappointed to see not more people in this aquarium hobby there at that meeting. That got me upset. Ton of reptile people, not a lot of fish people. I agree 100%. If you're out there making money off this hobby and the reef hobby, and you're out there, and you got a name and you got a presence, especially a big presence on YouTube, use it. Use it. Like, we're fighting for our livelihoods here. Like, say something, do something.
Mm-hmm. We're fighting for our pets. I mean, it was us and it was ORA, and I didn't notice anyone else specifically from our part of this pet industry.
Yeah, don't talk about it, be about it. Josh Reagan, 1487. This is what happens when an industry for decades has sold fish irresponsibly, and then owners with no knowledge end up releasing them. I'm a fish keeper, but I am troubled by the industry. You're troubled by the industry. Okay. You want to take this one?
Sure. Howdy, Josh. So it's important to start by noting that there hasn't been a novel invasive introduction in, I think, 16 or 20 years. It's been a long, long time, because our industry worked with FWC to create better biosecurity. Invasive introduction, it's not generally from someone's escaped pet or someone's intentionally released pet. It's from massive point source introductions. So like a fish farm overflowing during a hurricane. And that's where biosecurity comes in, where we can have measures that prevent that from happening. That's believed to be what happened with Burmese pythons. So now when there's a big storm coming, these snakes are held in a facility that should be able to handle the storm, and they're in multiple locked cages to prevent them from being able to escape should storm damage happen. With respect to irresponsible pet owners, I think that if someone goes to a store and they're sold a fish like an Oscar, and the person at the store says that they can keep it in a 10-gallon fish tank, like, that's a bold-faced lie. That's something that we shouldn't have happen. So does it need to be legislated? Potentially. Like, that's something that I would consider supporting, is making sure that people have a proper the proper homes for these animals before they purchase them.
We're not against regulation. We're for regulation, common sense regulation, and get the people in the industry involved. We're not against that. We're against completely banning all species with no reasoning, but really significant reasoning behind it. All right, next question we have from Alicia Doherty, 9252. Maybe they should go after the influencers who go and take marine life out of the ocean so that their tanks look cool. I agree 100%. I can't stand when YouTube people do things just for likes and views. I've personally seen a lot of these guys go to fish stores and take non-native species and pretend to catch them, and then claim like, oh my gosh, look at this eel, it just ended up here in the intercoastal. These things aren't out there. These aren't in Florida waterways, but these guys would have you believe that it is, and they're only doing it for views. I've personally seen it. It's all set up. It's all just for likes and views. So don't fall for that. There's not really eels, snowflake eels, and all these other crazy things out in the ocean. That's just not what's happening.
Hi, Corey Mellinson. You mentioned that Florida is a very unique case. It's an extreme outlier. It is a state as has seen much of its cherished wildlife face extinction due to the release of non-native invasive species. The media would have you believe this, and if you talk to biologists, I think what you'll find is the greatest threat facing Florida is habitat destruction. And so we should be spending more of our energy into restoring habitats, preserving existing habitats, preventing development, maybe doing smarter development where we're building taller instead of more sprawly. But our industry gets painted unfairly with respect to Florida's environmental crises. It's far less about the invasive species than it is the damaged habitat. Remember, Manifest Destiny, we wrecked Florida's ecosystem. We drained our swamps. We channelized our waterways. And our habitats will probably never recover to where they were before we did all that.
All right, so we have from All Things Zach. So sad because I know people that have a tank for their anxiety issues and have their tank as their therapy. Absolutely. Look, I worked in the restaurant business for a long time. I was in the back of the house. I'd work long hours, and I would come home and I would sit in front of my tank, and it really helped me decompress. And we personally know a ton of people, of our customers, that use their tank to help with their anxiety and their depression. So absolutely, look, if you can have a therapy animal, go on a plane and stuff, you should be able to have your fish tank to ease your anxieties.
I got one here, at Y269, hi Y, on a list of problems in Florida, this seems trivial. Yeah, it does.
Well, it does seem trivial from the legislative point of view, but when you don't fix real problems that are going on, you focus on things like this. And a lot of it's just a bunch of rich people that are on golf courses that see iguanas and are freaking out and like, oh my gosh, we got to get rid of these iguanas. When the reality is those golf courses cause way far more damage than those iguanas are, right? We only see iguanas in disturbed areas like Tommy was saying before. That's why they're so prevalent on golf courses. There's no predators out there. They have free range of the whole place. But these rich folks get mad and they're like, oh, I can't hit my balls because these lizards are everywhere. Well, maybe don't destroy the Everglades so you can hit a ball around.
Well, it's that, and it's also like they damage canals because they dig holes in canals, and then the canal has to be maintained, and it costs money to maintain these canals. But these canals were never a part of Florida's landscape. We built these canals so that we could drain the water from the land that we wanted to build our houses on and we wanted to grow our food on. And so we're dealing with those consequences in that's a phenomenal place for iguanas to establish.
And keep in mind, a lot of those people own dogs and they own cats. And I would argue that cats are a way more invasive species than iguanas. So they do a lot more damage to the Florida ecosystem. And dogs, honestly, as well too, cause a lot of issues. No shade on dogs. Next question by Mr. Bighead 73. In Maine, if the fish is not native to Maine and can survive in Maine waters, it is illegal to have.
I had a Jack Dempsey as a child, and now it is banned. Koi fish are banned.
Yeah, we don't want to be Maine.
No, a bunch of maniacs up in Maine.
Okay.
They call them maniacs.
Yep. Jerry Lewis, 1442. How does one contact the FWC, or what agency is proposing this?
So I think the best thing that you can do if you want to help is to support USARK Florida. You can leave public comments during the public comment periods. So USARK does a great job of letting us know when those are. You can also just keep an eye on FWC's website. But really, you want to be, if you can, supporting USARK Florida.
And somebody just made a great comment. Where is it at? David Leeming. Well, apparently most corals cannot live in Florida anymore. The oceans are too hot. That is more reason why we should be able to have this hobby alive. That is more reason why we should be able to keep corals in our aquarium, because our waters here in Florida, because of the water temperatures being extremely hot, are dying off at an alarming rate. By keeping these animals in our aquariums, we are preserving them for future generations.
Sadly. Yeah, because we're not doing what we need to do to prevent the functional extinction of coral reefs within the next couple decades.
Which we're gonna do a whole video on that really soon. So let's just end this with a couple more questions.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have by Kenny, 7503. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, Florida is not banning aquarium fish. There is no emergency. Florida enacted a law to help protect our environment. Okay. They are making rules on how to implement that law. The list necessarily has to be a white list It would be illogical for Florida to create a blacklist, a list intended for non-native species not currently documented as being traded in the state. You want to take that one?
First, I should start with, it doesn't logically have to be a whitelist, because a blacklists have been shown to be more effective than whitelists. They're far easier to enforce, they're easier to come up with. If they had to come up with a whitelist for the tens of thousands of species that we have in our trade, they're gonna miss stuff. They're gonna make mistakes. That's a huge scope to undertake. So one, the implementation of it is necessarily, logically, going to be poor if they do a whitelist, or it's going to be incredibly small, which looks to be the direction that they might be moving.
All right, let's end this on some positivity. So we got Pure Pro, 1995. How can you ban corals when 70% of the hobby is preservation? If these species are in danger, you should be working with the people of the hobby to reestablish the population. Yeah, that's a great comment. 100%. I believe this hobby is about preservation and education and knowledge and showing an appreciation for what's out in our ocean and passing it on to the next generation. So maybe people out there won't be so oblivious to what's happening like right now when the coral in Florida is literally boiling to death. And people would actually be passionate because they would know what these animals are.
Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of people have this bad taste in their mouth about our industry. They think that, you know, we're pillaging the reefs, and it's far from that. The source countries for a lot of these animals, we place the highest value on these reef resources. And so in the absence of our industry, these reef resources are still going to be used, but they're going to be used by more exploitative industries. It's in the collector's best interest to maintain these reefs healthy and diverse, because that's what's going to give them the most fish to collect year after year. Look at Hawaii. Hawaii shut down the same year that they had the largest population of yellow tangs that they had ever recorded in the 40-something years that they had been recording yellow tang populations. It might even be 50 years.
Yeah.
I really like this comment by Lynn Hughes. Great comment, Lynn Hughes. You're clearly fighting the good fight. Keep it up. Only 230 plus animal species have been reviewed and approved as of now. That means 29,000 plus or minus have not. It will cost approximately $10,000 per study, per animal, and up to 6 months for the review to be completed. This not only affects the aquarium industry, but also zoos, wildlife refuges, etc. Keep in mind that this is government overreach. The commission that is trying to push this through is made up of land developers. I even think some of these would take longer than 6 months, and they would be on our onus. We would be the ones putting up that $10,000 per study. This wouldn't be the government funding that.
And even if we put the money up, there's gonna be such a backlog of people submitting species to look at, and the FWC is not funded for this. And honestly, like most government agencies, it's purposely not funded for this exact reason, because when they pass this, they obviously want it to go through, and if the commission is made up of mostly land developers, I guess that answers the question to why they'd want it to go through.
So if you would like, you can very easily go on the FWC website and research the people who are the commissioners and look into their wildlife acumen. It's something that I would really encourage you to do. And also keep in mind that our FWC commissioners are not elected, they're appointed by our governor. So if you want a change in the direction of the FWC, it requires a change in governor.
All right, so that's our update on what's going on. There's still more information coming out that we're gonna have to delve into and look into, and we're gonna keep you guys up to date as much as possible. Keep you in the know, keep you in the loop as we are. I just wanted to answer some of those questions because that video got a ton of views, and for anybody saying it was a clickbait type of situation, I have like 2,000 subscribers, guys. I don't make any money off of YouTube. There's nothing to do with clickbait. This is about the livelihood for a lot of people, thousands of people in this industry. It's
hobby for hundreds of thousands of people.
It's about people using the reef tanks for therapy, their animals for therapy. Anybody who owns a dog and a cat should understand that. I'm making this video to get this information out. So thank you guys so much for watching. And you want to tell them where they can
Yeah, go to USARK Florida. This is the third time I'm plugging them. Go to USARK Florida. Support them with your influence. You know, signing up. Support them with your money if you're able to. That's 10 out of 10. And hopefully we can get something that makes more sense than what they're proposing now.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.